Behind me is Castle Valer, a 14th century Italian castle tucked away in the mountains just north of Trentino. And for the past several days, I have been a guest of the Ischbauer family, who have owned the castle since the 1300s. And it has been one of the most mind-blowing, paradigm-altering experiences that I've ever had. Let me show you why. The first thing to note is that the castle is a bona fide piece of living history. The oldest parts date back to the 1300s, while the 40-meter tall tower dates back to the 1100s and was built on ancient Roman foundations. Yet in spite of its age, the castle has been meticulously maintained over the centuries, and as a result, there are large parts of the castle that are fully modernized. As a naive non-European, I didn't realize that was really possible. I thought castles were simply old ruins where you'd pay 10 euros and get to walk around an old stone structure for a couple of hours and imagine what life was like in the Middle Ages. It never occurred to me that people still live in castles today, with running water, electricity, central heating, and Wi-Fi to stream their Netflix. The Ischbauer family does sell tours of the old parts of the castle, and they rent out space for weddings, events, and film productions. But many of the castle's more than 80 rooms on its 6 levels are kept entirely private. The second thing to note is how the castle challenged my assumptions of product design. Staying there forced me to ask questions such as, what constitutes a doorknob? What shape can a bathtub be? And how ornate can I make my toilet paper holder? And the third thing to note was simply how much astonishing history the castle had. Among my favorites, there's a chapel with gorgeously restored frescoes dating back to the 1400s. And there's a family tree dating back to 1347. And the castle's library has books from the 1700s, including classics like the works of Cicero. This is one of the coolest rooms in the castle. So in addition to the at least 3 fully modern kitchens that they have, this is a medieval kitchen. And this is the ancient stove. You have a bunch of woods, you create a fire, heats up the pots and pans, which are untold centuries old. There's an oven for baking bread. And over here, instead of a sink, this is actually an area used to slaughter animals. So you'd bring in a pig, a goat, a chicken, whatever it may be, you kill it on this stone surface, and then all the blood drips down right there into that drain. And then once it's butchered, carve up some meat, take it over to the stove, and voila, there's your meal. This piece is called a pilgrim stick, also known as a crusader staff, and it was used by someone who wanted to walk the lands and spread the good word of God. But hidden within the staff is a giant sword used to defend oneself against anyone who would try to mob them or mug them on the road. And apparently when the family found this old pilgrim staff, the blade was covered in blood. Apparently it had been used to murder a few people way back in the day. This is a really early version of a piano, but not just any piano. This piano was played by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart himself. He came at the invitation of the Ischbauer family to play for them and their guests. And this is what he played. Mozart's Ischbauer Messe. Adjacent to the 700-year-old Knights Hall, we have what appears to be a fully modern, totally contemporary living area, including a kitchen with an electric stove and an oven and a giant range hood, and a bathroom that could have been plucked from a 5-star hotel, including a jacuzzi tub and a toilet and a bidet and a shower that even has jacuzzi mode in it. And to me, this is totally, absolutely mind-blowing. The juxtaposition of the medieval age with postmodern luxury. And it's all in a family's private home, their personal residence that they've owned for centuries. It's absolutely brain exploding, and I struggle to wrap my head around it. It's so fascinating. It's hard to put into words what it's like living in a place straight out of a fairy tale. A place that has survived dynasties and empires, wars and plagues. As best as I can summarize, It's one part Game of Thrones, one part welcoming private residence, one part history lesson, and one part modern luxury hotel. And like any piece of luxury, there's an appropriate price tag attached. Castle Valer, with all its signature historical artifacts, has been appraised at over 15 million euros. After spending nearly a week here in the castle, I've been wrestling with what I've experienced, how I come to terms with all this history that I've seen. And I think the most amazing thing for me is the way it shifted how I appreciate and how I view history in general. I'd say in most of our schooling, we are taught to think of history in these very discrete periods. Life was a certain way up until the invention of gunpowder. Then it was a certain way up until the invention of electricity, and so on and so forth, where you have these moments in time that changed the world. But this experience in this castle challenged all of that. It changed the way that I thought about history, because you can see and you can feel the continuity. You can sense the tapestry of time and how humanity has evolved rather than changed in these singular monolithic blocks of time. And that has been one of the coolest things that I've ever experienced.